Hey Scott,
Hey Marina, how are you?
how's it going?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Oh my God, I'm exhausted. I had a week from hell.
How come?
Well, a tough project at work, which I finally finished today, which is a miracle because we've been out of power for well, not 2 days, like day and a half. We lost power yesterday because of the storm. So
Okay.
it's been not fun. And as it turns out, by the looks of it, at least I'm the only one who actually finished. None of my coworkers put in their parts. So I'm pretty sure we're gonna hear from the client about it.
Right. Well, at least you got your bit done.
Yeah. I mean, technically it's a draft. So if I have time before they put me on a different project, I'll actually sit down and double check because it was such a mad rush to finish it today.
Hmm.
Our contracting officer said, "Well, we have to get it out before 4 p.m." And I was like, "Okay, so now I have 3 hours to finish." But I did.
Yeah. So have they sorted out the power then? I assume obviously you're running now by the looks of it.
We got it back. Well, it was 11 in the morning, so hold on, it's almost so about 6 hours ago we got it back.
Right.
And but the worst part it happens often enough, especially with really bad storms. Problem was there was absolutely no communication from the utility company. Like no, normally what they would do is that okay, by I don't know 7 o'clock at night, we estimate that your area is going to be the power is going to be restored.
Yeah, you get a
No,
text or something like
there
that.
was nothing. It was like pending investigation throughout the like literally the entire state. I tried clicking on other sort of like these dots where the area of outage reports, and
Mhm.
it didn't matter which county it was. The entire state was like this,
The entire
and I was
state
like,
was like it.
what happened? I mean, Hurricane Sandy was horrific enough, but that was like a Category 3 hurricane that was like literally covered like half the continent. In this case, it was a tropical storm. Yes, it was a pretty bad tropical storm, but it moved fast and it was sunny. Like two after, I think it was not 2 o'clock. Like for 4 p.m. yesterday. That's it. It was done, and then that's it. We were sitting without power for a day and a half.
That is
uh,
a long time to be without juice.
yeah, the worst part, of course, is the air conditioning is out. We have a small generator, so at least we didn't lose any of the food.
Mm.
We have we just switch over the refrigerator to that emergency line, and we had a couple of outlets so we can charge the phones and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Otherwise, that's it. No lights. Um, the router was working, but intermittently. I mean, that did something that my father is an electronic guru, so at least if we needed the Wi-Fi for something, we could have. But like with my phone is a thing in its own. I don't really need Wi-Fi. I have unlimited
Yeah.
data. It was air conditioning because we have right now because of all this stuff. We normally average 80-90% humidity levels.
Ugh.
So once the temperatures go up during the day, it's hell. But once it kicked, I mean, it's like we hit I think 95 today. But once the air conditioning came back on 11 o'clock in the morning, it was like
I mean,
we can
it's
finally
one
breathe.
thing. It's one thing to like have it breaks down. That's fine. I mean, these things happen, but to have no communication, that
Yeah,
seems a bit
that was, and this
outrageous.
is the first time that something like this happened. I mean, they've had issues before, especially there's our local substation, the one that's specific to our neighborhood and several others in the area.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure that they're due some major upgrade because we started losing power way too frequently. I'd say in the last 5 hours, oh sorry, 5 hours, 5 years, every time we're not even talking like hurricane level badness, just a strong storm with a sizable downpour just goes through the area, chances are we're probably going to lose power. And that's ridiculous because this is just so regular thunderstorm knocks out a substation, but what the hell. So they really need to look into it, but unfortunately there seems to be no, it's like people have been trying to poke them and sue them and god knows what else, and nothing happens. Nobody does anything.
Well, they own all the chips because they run your power, I suppose. So they
Yeah, they're the ones. Yes, they're the part. Or I think we have a different company for gas. Our range and our oven run on gas. My uncle has it worse because his entire water supply is off a well rather than off a township or city system. So every time the power goes out, so do the pumps. So he literally, I mean, at least, you know, I can take a shower in the dark. It doesn't matter. He's basically cut off from all services. So he, yeah, he, but he said he still thought himself very lucky because his street, part of it got flooded, but he's sort of like on the upper end of it, so he wasn't affected. But 2 neighboring houses got trees, like literally fell straight on the roofs. And he was like, nothing happened to him except for power loss. So he was like, I'm lucky, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably the best case scenario on that one there. But,
yeah, because some of the like we live in a pretty suburban area, both him and my family.
You're in New Jersey, right?
Yeah. So there are plenty of really big trees around, and once one of these monsters goes down, yeah, if it falls on the roof is gonna fall to pieces. If it falls on the car's gonna be gone. It's not minor. But we had, the worst part was like when Hurricane Irene and Hurricane Sandy, and that was what, about 6 years ago? Yeah, 6 or 8 years ago. That was horrible because literally all those giant trees, they were like literally like somebody came up and just, you know, like I don't know,
rooted them and then just
like a carrot, like, you know, like we can pull a carrot. That's what it looked like. They just literally, the entire root system was out of the ground and all over the area. I'm kind of shocked
to get weather like that.
Our neighborhood actually made out pretty well in Sandy. Yeah, but still, I noticed that there's more reports now that there's bad weather off the coast of UK happening, especially in winter. That I don't recall that being that bad, you know, say 10, 20 years ago. So things are changing. But right now, all this stuff that's happening, it's happening much earlier. Hurricane season is very early this year, and it's just not great.
But are you officially in hurricane season right now then?
Yeah. I mean, this one was Hurricane Isaiah, so we were already in I. The next one's going to be whatever they pick for J. and it's already coming.
I didn't know New Jersey had a hurricane problem.
Yeah, it's the entire mid-Atlantic. Usually, like majority of the stuff that it's Florida that gets the brunt of it, and either one of the Carolinas, and North Carolina, South Carolina. Majority of the cones, when they go up to the shore, they hit somewhere in that area, either the Panhandle or the Carolinas. So when it happens, like what happened with this one, when it goes straight up the coast, it just literally hits every single state. I mean, it's this morning, I think it was all the way up in Canada, obviously not the same strength, but it's yeah, they got a little bit out of it.
Jesse just texted us saying he's coming in a second.
Okay. So he said we're going to brainstorm as far as like specifics to talk about, because I'll be honest, I mean, this was completely his brainchild. He just said, we're going to record something. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to record pretty much almost any time. But as far as what we want to talk about, hey, Cam.
Hey, what's going on?
We're just generally chatting about hurricanes.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with this subject. Living in BC.
Nor am I, Cam. Yeah. It's a fascinating subject. I have no nothing about
what?
Here.
One of those, when it's like one of those really freaky things, like for instance, the earthquakes are not normal here. I mean, it can happen on the East Coast, but generally speaking, if it's something that's especially stronger than, say, I don't know, 2.53, it's like, holy cow, what the hell did just happen? Which makes, you know, folks on the West Coast kind of laugh. And I'm like, well, you know what? If hurricane came up your coast, you'd be freaking out because it's not something normal to the area. Because that happened. We had an earthquake here that, you know, the one that cracked the Virginia, and they heard it all the way up to Canada. Like, just ran up the coast. That was so weird. Oh. So yeah, so we started chatting. I mean, once Jesse gets in, what exactly are we going to talk about? Because he just told me, he's like, we're going to record. And so I don't have anything. I don't have an agenda because I don't even know what the heck we can talk about. I mean, I have a couple of ideas, but
that is classic Jesse.
Yeah. No, because I told him, I said, I don't want to, I mean, we did something similar. We talked about fandom and something when we did with you and Tyler, Cam. So that, we kind of talked about that. We had probably 3 or 4 guests by now when we discussed the state of convention circuit and, you know, things that are du jour. So the only thing that kind of in that area we can discuss basically our experiences experiences with virtual events. I mean, what'd you do? What'd you enjoy? What you didn't like? Did you get to attend something that was very special, unique? Did you get to do any of those, one-on-ones that they do? I still haven't done one actually because I'm like, you know what? I've met all these people in person. I think I'm good. So other than that, I'm blank. So that's why it's like, I normally send out a little written thing. Jesse didn't tell me anything, so I'm just here representing.
Well, we'll have to ask Jesse what this is on.
Yeah. And he's late. He's 1 minute late.
He says he's on a phone call.
God, I was telling Scott, I had such a mad rush to finish my thing today. I'm just kind of, I'm all kind of like this still. This thing just doesn't want to stay up.
Yeah, in terms of a topic, I mean, I spoke to Jesse briefly about it, and I think we spoke about like STLV, but that might have been done to death by everyone now.
Yeah,
so I don't know whether it's like.
So we had just, I mean, I don't know if you had a chance to see what we've done over the past, like, say, roughly 10 episodes. We've had the special STLV.
Yeah, the unbelievable stuff and
the cruise, because the stuff got. Yeah, we covered Unbelievable. We had Ryan come on. And Larry Nemechek to talk about the state of things in the conventions. We did two on Unbelievable because we had two different guests talking slightly differently about the same subject. It was so cool to get Chase. She's such a sweetheart. But like I said, short of like discussing what are actually our experiences with this, I can't figure out how to put another spin onto it. Because really nothing's happening so far.
Well, there is a little bit of
go on, mate.
There's a bit of an angle just on the sense of like you've got Lower Decks dropping this week. You've got Discovery announced to air immediately after. So what is it like? What is it like to have 23 weeks of Star Trek stuff?
Yeah.
But without any fan events or like live fan events to kind of celebrate such a busy time for the franchise.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be reflected one way or another. Through virtual stuff, so which is where we can come in and kind of discuss our experiences and what we're kind of expecting coming up, because we still have one other big tuner meeting, and that's New York Comic Con, and I am 100% certain it's not happening because we're already in August. Obviously, there's nothing happening with the tickets. Tickets would have been on sale in June, so obviously it's not happening. I'm sure it's going to be virtual. So yeah, we can talk about that. Though. Like, what are we?
Destination
what are we
is there as well and still not been postponed. Yeah. It's still technically happening in November.
It's still, same thing. Well, actually, both of them, both the German one and the British one, because they're like 2 weeks apart, and then of course STLV in December. So, but that's kind of like question marks out there. I don't think they're going to be going virtual. I think they're just going to get pushed into 2021, and
they have to.
Yeah, at this point, I just don't see a miracle of that magnitude happening. So it can actually happen. But yeah, so virtual stuff like Reed Pop, that they're the hosts of C2E2 in Chicago, New York Comic Con, and a whole host of other conventions. They're doing a large virtual event in a week called Metaverse. And I'm assuming it's like practice run for virtual New York Comic Con, because it's basically the same idea. You'll get free panels, and you can do one-on-ones, and you can do autographs, and you can do, well, actually, that's all. You can't do photos, obviously. But so, yes, so stuff is coming up. And like you said, seeing that we're going to have 23 weeks straight of new track happening, something else is going to pop up.
Well, I mean, we could maybe do something about just like the positive spin on everything, because it is a bit down. Well,
everything is positive
at the moment.
Yeah,
but
we
could be sad. But
we had a discussion about that when we did, I think, either Connected Con or something else. One of those things when we had got a whole bunch of people on the phone. A lot of people are thrilled about having the virtual experience because they just generally do not have any convention experience at all. So virtual stuff is very much a blessing. So even though it cannot in any way replace a physical convention, we can certainly enjoy what we have. I mean, can you imagine 20 years ago would be just, I don't know, reading, staring at walls, with nothing to do.
I mean, the virtual side of things, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but it's not, it doesn't really do anything for me personally.
Yeah.
Well,
I like being there.
Of course. I mean, especially those, I mean, everybody does conventions differently. Pretty much 90% of the folks that I know through STLV who cosplay heavily, they go primarily so they can hang out. So it's not so much the panels, it's not so much the photo ops, it's not so much the autographing. They do primarily the communicative aspect of it when they need to hang out with the crowd. So obviously that once that's removed, that's it. It's no longer a convention for them. So yeah, so in that regard, of course, virtual stuff would be boring for them. I love it. I mean, I still enjoy going to conventions when I'm physically at conventions. So that's why I was like, at some point I was trying to hit every single one, and I finally relaxed sometime midway through July because I realized I was losing my mind. There's just too many things happening. So, hey, Jesse, how are you? He can't hear me.
Is he muted?
Hey, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
all right, so oh, okay.
The good old Blue Yeti microphone. Good,
yes.
good bit of kit.
Oh, I love my Blue Yeti. This is probably one of the best Christmas gifts I ever gotten.
Marina, do you have a copy of our housekeeping? Because that's, I think, the only thing we need to
sure, yeah, just a moment. Let me pull up.
Sorry, guys, I didn't mean to be late, but
I mean, I'm
outraged.
I can.
I'm leaving. Leaves meeting.
Well, it's because he's outrageous, so Kendo. That's why he has to do that. I can read it off at the end, like we've done.
Okay, good. Scott, how'd you get the living room to yourself?
I kicked Hannah into the bedroom. She's watching the film. Bye.
I'm gonna learn from you.
So Cam came up with an interesting angle on what we can talk about, so we're not beating the whole subject of virtual events to death. And I
don't think I can spend another hour talking about how depressed we are. So.
Hold on, where the heck did I put all my shore leaf stuff? Oh, there it is. Never mind. For a moment, I thought that the folder got deleted. Yeah. Okay. So I'll read it off at the end, like normally we normally now do.
Cam, I swear, you just look at Cam. He looks like if you just add 50 years, he'll be in that same chair.
Wait, what are you implying?
At the nursing home.
What's that supposed to mean? Oh, Lord.
Like, it looks so comfy and calm.
I actually inherited this chair from my grandmother. It's like a $1,500 leather chair that when she moved out of her place, I wound up with it. It's luxury.
I'm sorry. I just had to give you a hard time.
It's also the only chair I have that doesn't creak.
So. All right. So, Marina, so I don't mind starting. What's this, episode 70?
Yes, this is episode 70, so okay. I can do the welcome. You can introduce the guests. We'll keep the housekeeping for last. And like I said, what we just basically chatted about was we have 23 weeks of nonstop new track coming with Lower Decks starting tomorrow and the third season of Discovery. So basically that's the angle as far as, you know, how that's going to affect what are we expecting as far as virtual stuff, and just how weird it is that we have an unprecedented thing happening with that much new track and we don't have conventions. So we can kind of chat about that. I mean, we can I don't know, do we want to bring up like just generally our experiences with virtual? You know, like Scott said that that's nothing for him.
I think we do. I think this group is easy enough to just go with the flow, the way the conversation goes. So you guys get in the new podcast. Stop looking at me like that, Cam.
No. I require structure in my life, Jesse. I can't do this freewheeling thing.
Yeah. Quick question. Since Cam is on a special and he will have to edit all this. Now, I don't know, my laptop has been very good today, but in case I get, you know, the glitchy sounds or anything, do you want me to record my voice on my end? Because I have Audacity so I can record my track. And then if I'm screwy on the general recording through Zoom, at least you'll have my track. Or it's too much work. Just tell me.
You could do that as a backup, but I think that might get potentially kind of difficult when you're dealing with like 4 people in one call, right? And trying to edit out the original version of you to insert the other one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Then people can tolerate me going, and
Usually you can fix all that.
All right, cool.
There's ways to edit around that.
Yeah. You'll know when it happens because I'll just, we'll be looking at her and she'll be talking, but her picture won't be
like
moving.
this, yeah.
Or her picture's moving and she's
Remember
not talking.
There was one time when apparently I was probably saying something, so I had a really weird expression on my face, and that's how Zoom froze on everybody else's.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
And they were like, "What is going on?" And I'm just sitting there.
All right, so I will start. I'm gonna go with the flow. You introduce the subject, and then we'll go from there. And Cam, like you guys do.
So the subject matter. Okay. How do I summarize it? So basically, we're talking about, we can just say current state of events in view of coming Trek.
Yeah.
Well, you could just say like the current state of Trek. We've got all this positive stuff. Let's look at the positive side of Trek right now instead of focusing on the doom and gloom out there.
Oh, yeah, Jesse and I have been so positive, we're practically glowing.
Hey, Marina, why don't you call it the current state of Star Trek conventions? That way it ties to the show a little better.
Then we have to talk about no conventions.
Just the current state
virtual conventions.
It's just us weeping for an hour, basically.
Yeah, just the current state of things. I mean, it's just a general chat after all.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
let's try it. All right, so go ahead.
Hold on, I gotta remember the name of the show. I always got. Okay.
So right. And it's episode 70.
70. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Shore Leave, your Star Trek Convention Community Podcast. My name is Jesse Okendo, and with me we have my co-host. Good. Let's do that again. I think you froze right as I was introducing you.
Yeah, let's.
Yeah,
really? I'm okay in my end. That's weird.
Yeah. All right. So I'll just introduce myself and you introduce yourself. Okay. So ready?
Just start over.
Yep,
start over.
2, 1. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Shore Leave, your Star Trek Convention Community Podcast. This is episode 70, and I am one of your hosts, Jesse Okendo.
And I am Marina Kravchuk, your other co-host, and I am amazed that we reached number 70. This is quite a momentous episode, I suppose. And we are going to, we decided to do like a general chat to discuss the current state of things in Star Trek. We have a lot of exciting things coming up, so it's great to have everyone. And Jesse, would you like to introduce our guests?
Yeah, let me introduce you to two of my bestie Strek friends in the world, but they're not here. No, just kidding. No. So we have with us Cam Smith. Cam is from Canada and co-host of Subspace Transmissions, another Star Trek podcast. Cam, you want to tell us more about you and what your podcast is?
Yeah, so I'm from Subspace Transmissions, where we every week kind of do an irreverent take on an aspect of the franchise. Obviously, going forward, we're going to be covering a lot of new Trek, but typically we'll bounce around topics. We did an episode recently on the character of Odo and his evolution. We did another one on aliens we'd like to see on lower decks, and we just kind of bounce around week to week.
Yeah, and if he sounds familiar, he is the voice of our intro music. Thank you, Cam. And he's been on the show at least once or twice before. So thanks, Cam, for joining us. And then
I know you banned me, but you keep bringing me back.
Yeah. Well, what can we do? Like this week, I would be seeing you all week, so I just had to have you back. And
true.
So Cam, along with our next guest, is part of my Star Trek group from Star Trek Las Vegas. We call ourselves the Brain Trust. So we have Scott Hardy all the way from the UK. Scott, introduce yourself and tell us what's going on.
Hello. I'm back again. I think I was here a long time ago, last on the podcast, many episodes ago. But it's great to be here. And what Cam didn't mention is we also have a podcast coming out together. Of all things. I know.
Boy.
An unlikely combination.
That's right.
We're not tackling Star Trek. We're doing something different here. So it's called Spy Hards, and we're going to be looking at spy cinema and trying to decipher which is the best spy films out there.
Oh, is this to cover Cam's desire for more Bond movies or something?
Pretty much, So, any Star Trek fans who really like episodes like Our Man Bashir or a lot of the Section 31 stuff, who want to maybe delve more into the movie world of that kind of stuff, check out Spy Hards. We're going to launch soon, and tackle, Our Man Flint and the Bond stuff and all that sort of thing.
So does it intersect at all with your Schwarzenegger podcast?
Probably in some ways, yes.
I still listen to Armageddon.
Armageddon, yeah.
Armageddon. Yeah. I still listen to it. It's a fun thing. So
anyway, True Lies is a spy film, so.
Yes. Oh yes, it is. That's
the crazy thing is, he has 3 podcasts going, but he hates the sound of his own voice. I don't know. It's a weird thing.
Well, I'm also masochistic.
No, but it's wonderful. I'm actually amazed at how different they are. I mean, it's quite a spread of topics. And speaking of Schwarzenegger, that's actually fun. I need to check this out because my sister and I got to meet him last year.
That's right.
This is pretty awesome. Yeah. Schwarzenegger podcast. That's got to be a unique one.
There's not many out there.
It's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So as I mentioned before, we wanted to discuss things that are going to be happening in the next oh my goodness, close to half a year basically, because we have 23 weeks of uninterrupted brand new Star Trek coming up. First with Star Trek Lower Decks, which as of this recording is actually premiering tomorrow, Thursday, August the 6th, and then of course in October followed by Discovery Season 3. So this is unprecedented. I have literally no words to describe how excited I am that we get to experience something like this. So your thoughts and feelings?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because so right now we'd be in Vegas hearing about all the stuff coming in. So we don't have that. We have the online presence. And I'm kind of curious to hear what you guys think about how do you think that's going to go? So their major channels to get new viewers and new people interested, with San Diego Comic-Con going virtual and didn't go as virtual as they wanted, or not as many listeners. Star Trek Las Vegas isn't even virtual, right? It's just not there until December. What do we think about how well received is it going to be? So we know the fans, the Vegas goers will be watching, but what about everyone else? Do you think we're going to be able to capture new viewers and keep the momentum going? So let's turn that over to Scott. What do you think?
I think anyone that went to STL or was going to be going to STLV, I should say, was probably already going to watch Short Treks. Not Short Treks, Lower Decks, I should say. It didn't need a plug. I think trying to get fans that are further out to be brought in, I don't even think San Diego Comic-Con would have particularly helped that. I think Lower Decks will be done by word of mouth. And we have a lot of time sat in our houses right now to text our friends to watch these shows. So it's actually, if it's good, I think it will grow organically from that.
Kim, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Lower Decks is one that I think we've seen a lot of Star Trek fans being very critical of this sort of animated, wacky take on Star Trek. But we also know pretty much all of them are going to be watching it nonetheless, because that's just the history of Star Trek, is whatever new series comes out, everyone's angry about it, but then they wind up watching it for 7 years of their lives. So I think it's safe in those regards. I think it really has the potential to blow up among more general viewers. The only problem is, for example, I was going to say my mom was asking about it because she was really interested, but here in Canada, it airs on broadcast TV during prime time. And so I wonder, when you say, will it blow up? How many people are on CBS All Access? Just the availability in US markets. Obviously, we don't know about international yet, really. But let's just say, for example, it shows up on Netflix or even Amazon Prime. They have a bigger audience. CBS All Access? I don't know. I'm curious how many how many curious people are on that particular app or service who are actually going to check it out.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear all the folks. So, when Discovery came out, one of the biggest things I heard was the continuity of the timeline, or the continuity of canon, and it didn't do this and didn't do that. I'm just curious how that's going to go with an animated series. Is it canon? Is it going to match the timeline? That's what I don't know. I think that's what's going to be fun about it. It'll be...
My understanding is very much so, because Mike McMahon, the creator, not only is a huge Trekkie himself, but for everything so far indicates from the interviews that he's done that they've been very careful with, picking the spot. It's happening after TNG. I think it's actually happening right after Nemesis. So it's before Picard, but it's after Nemesis. So it's sort of like, so they can hit that sweet spot where there's plenty of, well, I don't want to call it fan service, but there's plenty of references and throwbacks and little things, including most recently the confirmation that there will be cameos by legacy characters. So I'm pretty sure that, that they can do a lot with animated. And as a matter of fact, I'm hoping that it should have a better reception than, say, Discovery was, exactly because it's an animated series and you can do so much more with that. It's so much more flexible. So it's going to be interesting to see what the reaction is going to be. But it's something that Scott said, like conventions probably have only a certain effect when a brand new thing comes along, because the convention portion of fandom is actually pretty circumscribed. You don't really, a person who just generally just watches TV is probably not necessarily a convention goer. As a matter of fact, likely not. Then so you would not be advertising something to that kind of person via convention. It's just going to be, a blip on the news, and that's it. So what do they care about San Diego or Star Trek Las Vegas or destination? So yeah, word of the mouth, and I'm sure a whole lot of online promotion and just whatever the usual promotion right now that they do for television in whichever form it exists.
Well, this is the first time I haven't, I've avoided like the teasers, the trailers. All I've seen is just, whatever flashes through a Facebook screen. But teaser trailers, have you guys seen those? And
yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
I could not. I honestly, I try to be sort of, I still read the interviews and check out stuff. I mean, they are very careful with what information they actually put out there. I mean, if you notice that they haven't been really any kind of like, oh, here's a leak or anything. That has been pretty much tight for years on CBS's side. So yeah, it's exciting. I laughed out loud when I saw the first trailer because I just thought, I mean, I've never seen Rick and Morty, but it just, I'm like, okay, yes, I think I kind of starting to get some of the, one of my best friends is a huge fan. And he's like, oh, it's hilarious. It's such a, wacky sense of humor. And I saw this, I'm like, I guess I can kind of understand now. It was funny, really funny. What do you guys think?
And Cam, what are your thoughts on the trailer? Because I saw, we have a WhatsApp group, and I saw like stuff splash in, and I've been avoiding it because like I really wanted to do. One of our guys, Stefan, does that. He doesn't watch any of the trailers or anything, and I thought, well, let me try it this one time because, and it's animated, so it's not like I'll probably like it, but I'm not like dying to go see an animated thing. But did the trailer kind of sell you or help at all, or what do you think?
Well, the visuals definitely did. I was. You're always a little nervous when you go into a new animated show because when you look at what Star Trek promises, the visuals of it could be really spectacular. So you don't want to see it kind of done, halfway. You want to see them really embrace what the visuals of Star Trek could be. So I was very much grabbed. I think the show looks like fantastic, and I'm looking forward to just watching it. When you're marketing comedy, I find that's rough because a lot of what I find funny with a show like this is character-based, and they can't really sell the characters to us yet because we don't know these characters. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of it was just more broad humor. It's kind of like, say like the first Austin Powers comes out and it's just a lot of clips of him saying, yeah, baby. And you're like, I mean, I guess, like, sure. But then you see the movie and you understand the context. So in terms of the visuals, I'm on board. In terms of the content, I mean, I'm definitely excited to see it, but I can't say that I was like, roaring with laughter watching the teaser.
Scott, what do you think?
I've got a bit of a weird connection with Lower Decks. I know you guys sort of know the story, but I've not told it in this podcast, so I'll tell you the quick story. Last year in Vegas, I met Mike McMahon and got him to sign his Star Trek Next Generation Season 8 book that he brought out before all of this, along with the whole writing staff of Lower Decks. And I'm a big Rick and Morty fan as well, so I'm familiar with his style of writing. I know what he's going for. And the TNG Season 8 book I recommend to anyone by Mike McMahon. It's a hilarious book. And then I saw the trailer. And for me, the comedy didn't grab me, which I thought it would. because I'm so used to Rick and Morty and the TNG season 8 book that it's kind of different from that. Mm-hmm. But I'm agreeing with Cam in the sense of it's really hard to judge a comedy on a trailer because this is going to be situational based, and we don't know what the situations are half the time in these trailers, and character based, and we don't know these people. So I'm very much prepared to give it the full season and watch it. But the trailers didn't really do anything for me. But then again, I was already a huge fan before it started.
Well, it reminded me a little bit of with Discovery Season 2, how one of the biggest things they marketed was Linus sneezing on someone in the turbo lift. And you're like, okay, like that's, pretty broad joke. But then when I actually think of, Season 2 Discovery, there's a lot of funny moments throughout that season that genuinely had me laughing. A lot of Giorgio lines and just situations that just are impossible to market. Mm-hmm. So instead they choose something they can show in 3 seconds, which is an alien sneezing on someone. And I feel like Lower Decks is sort of in that situation, cutting a trailer.
So it's funny, they just I just saw a Star Trek.com interview with the guy who plays Linus talking about exactly that. Yeah. Like he didn't expect to be like a comic relief, but here he is. And I hear it's said about how they're going to expand on that role, which I think Discovery needed. They needed that one. They had comic relief moments, but not the comic relief character. Mm-hmm. So I think this will help that a little bit. I don't know how much, but I'm good. I look forward to him because he really just the way he interacts with the crew and the way he his translator doesn't work all the time. I think that's going to be fun. So we've got Lower Decks. So what else, hey, Marina? Because you keep track of everything. So 23 weeks. What's all coming?
Well,
that's Lower Decks
for now. Well, Lower Decks is 10 episodes. That's the first season, and then once that's over, that puts us actually very close to October, when October 15th is Discovery Season 3 comes out. So that's a whole nother thing. I mean, I actually am really looking forward to that because just the way Season 2 ended, there's so many questions. Mm-hmm. What, how, who, I mean, and we've only got little snippets. I mean, we got to see, I don't know if you had a chance to stop by the museum on board during Star Trek Cruise, where they had some of the props from Season 3. And they had little ones, literally only the stuff that we saw in the teaser trailers, not much more beyond that. I mean, as a matter of fact, there was a huge splash recently in the news because the new picture of Sonequa as Michael Burnham, and people were like, there's a new combat. You can see there's a brand new shape. Somebody already tried to sort of 3D print it so they can figure out what exactly it all means. So that's exciting. I'm sure it's going to ramp up closer to October when we get more trailers and more information and the photos released. Same MO as what they did for Season 2. So that's going to be pretty exciting. So that kind of begs the question of we have all this material coming up. There are no conventions, even though, as we kind of discussed just now, I mean, it's just a matter of that being a part of a very specific area where the convention advertising kind of goes. Mm-hmm. But still, it's pretty odd that we have this unprecedented explosion of new track material, but we don't have physical outlet for those who convention circuit regulars. Yeah. That's a pretty odd sensation, you have to agree.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, what Discovery is doing, what I like about what Discovery is doing in Season 3 is, when it first saw the trailer and the teaser, you guys remember the moaning, oh, it's Enterprise all over again. Why can't we go into the future? So now that we're going 900 years into the future, I'm just waiting for those comments. Oh, why did they go 900 years into the future? But it's delivering what we wanted. I think it's going to be fun. So what are your thoughts, Scott? What do you think about Discovery Season 3 for what you've seen so far? Because those trailers and teasers I've seen, and I'm kind of excited to see where they go with it.
Well, my honest opinion is they're doing what they probably should have done a lot earlier and just escaped canon. It's such a heavy anchor to any show. Lower Decks know to set themselves after Nemesis. They can do what they want. They can set the pace and set the tone. Picard's kind of filled in the blank a little bit after that, but they've still got room to play in that gap. Discovery have now left. They don't have to go, oh, look, there's Sarek turning up for no reason or whatever. There's no ties, and I'm thrilled to bits. The characters, there's some characters in the show I really like, and I'm really happy that they're going forward with the ship, and going to a place where I'm interested to see stories about what's happened to the Federation. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think tying themselves in that little period was an interesting choice, let's put it that way.
Yeah, because it was only 10 years to play with. So when it first started, I'm like, well, what can they do? Like, because so it kind of shocked me when this whole thing, when they ended up that far ahead. But then I thought, it's what we complained about. So let's see what happens.
I mean,
what are your thoughts? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say, I'm really fascinated to see down the line somewhere I don't know if you've seen the William Shatner documentary, Chaos on the Bridge, for the first season of Next Generation. I'm really happy. I'll be really curious to see what the Discovery documentary looks like 20 years down the line. that first season must have been a riot behind the scenes.
Well, season 2 as well.
Yeah.
Well, when we had to get rid of some of the producers because they were yelling at people, so that'll be fun to hear with those stories. So, Cam, what are your thoughts from you're kind of one of the most, between you and Tyler, who does the podcast with you, like you guys are really in tune to what's going on in Trek. And what do you think about this and where it's going to take us? What do you think we're going to hear?
I am super excited for the next season of Discovery because, you referenced the kind of tumultuous behind the scenes stuff. And we had Michelle Paradise show up as a showrunner or co-showrunner for the second half of season 2. And I really felt like the show found its legs right around then and was very confident right to the end of season 2. And just the way it ended with, what it promised for where we're going for season 3, I was incredibly excited because, well, I have to admit, I was a little hesitant just about the Enterprise factor of kind of the fan service type stuff they might just have to be beholden to where they were in that current timeline. Jumping into the future just opens so many opportunities. One of the things we love doing on the podcast is tracking the evolution of alien species. The Klingons, we've done the Andorians, all these different species that are iconic on Star Trek. By now jumping so much forward into the timeline of Star Trek, we can now examine what's going on with Trills in the future and all these various aspects of Star Trek society that have been stagnant because we haven't delved into what is Klingon culture this far down the road. We just keep going backwards. So I'm looking forward to seeing that world stuff. Plus, I think the characters really clicked. I think the addition of characters like Jet Reno, bringing Michelle Yeoh's character into a larger role in the show has helped a lot with the energy. Cutting out maybe a character like Ash Tyler, who I have nothing against the actor, but that character became a bit of a wet blanket. I think they've got a good group and plus more expansion of the bridge crew. So let's take all the stuff that's working, change settings just to refresh the show, and let's see how it goes. I'm really excited for season 3 Discovery.
So now we have the original crew. So the one that kind of shocked me. So we had this discussion in Vegas or something where we talked about, did Michelle Yeoh, did she sneak on and go into the future? And we didn't know. And so now we know she did. And that's kind of interesting because I'm like, okay, so how does this Section 31 thing kick in,
Does it, Jesse?
It does it.
No one's talking about this show.
And then, with that, we kind of lost Mary Chieffo unless somehow she snuck on board. So I'm kind of sad a little bit, but I'm kind of excited at the same time.
Well, there's a backdoor for that, though, because we have the new Pike-led Strange New Worlds. So Mary Chieffo could easily work over there, as well as if you want to bring back Ash Tyler, he can show up on Strange New Worlds.
That's a big if. That's a big if.
You guys should listen to Subspace Transmissions where they totally dig into Ash Tyler and how much they love him.
He's our mascot.
But who are you excited that is moving ahead? So here's the thing. They went into the future, but unless someone dies, they're stuck with who they went with, right? So Tilly, the only Seska went to some other clan or something, or they just don't make it in the future. So I'm excited to see what Tilly does because she's got that's the one I'm looking for. And then Hugh and I forgot his name. Those guys. I'm excited to see what happens to those relationships because when you look at the trailer, you kind of know that they're not always together, right? There's something that happens where they get separated for an amount of time. So I'm wondering how that's going to go. What are you predictions for Discovery season 3? Because every time we predict, we get it all 100% right. Scott, what do you think for season 3? What do you think we're going to focus on for those? Was it 12 episodes, right?
I think 12 or 13 episodes. Yeah. I mean, judging from the teaser trailer that we got and the promotional art, I think it's basically a story of rebuilding the Federation. I think that's the gist of the season. I mean, if you look at that flag, it had like 3 stars on it compared to what we saw with loads of stars in the background. So I think the main underlying plot of the series is bringing back the Federation and reigniting the flame, to call back to the opening episode of Discovery. But I do hope they have a few more self-contained stories along the way.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to more fun episodes, and I'm just hoping it doesn't get too dark, because that whole the trailer did leave me with this is going to be a dark season. I didn't get the warm fuzzy that I got from when what's his name, the pimp.
Rios.
Oh my.
No. Oh, Mud. Sorry, when Mud. So we had a comic relief on Mud's episode, right? And so I just don't know what there is for comic relief. And Star Trek, you're kind of used to seeing something like that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So, Marina, any more thoughts on Discovery on your side?
Something? After the first season ended, I basically, it's my own little rule. I do not predict Discovery. Precisely because they literally, whatever I think that's happening or what it means, something else comes along that completely changes the premise or completely changes, all of a sudden this character is actually dead. So, no predictions. I agree with Scott that, we're talking about rebuilding. And as a matter of fact, in that vein, the creators did say that they actually expect season 3. Well, they know precisely what's going to happen in season 3, but they're saying it's going to be more hopeful. So we shall see. Until more information appears, we have very, very little to go on, as I mentioned. A couple of, interviews, a teaser trailer, and whatever the props that we saw. So at this point, it's complete guesswork. I'm actually curious, are we in the future for the entire time? Not to mention seeing that this is Star Trek, which future is it precisely, seeing that we have multiple possibilities? And I'm still very confused as far as what's happening with Georgiou. Because if she is a separate entity somewhere down the line with the Section 31 production, how exactly does that work out? Given that she's currently in the future, as we know. So no predictions for me. I am very excited because, as I said, way too many open questions left after season 2 ended. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen in October.
We also had that short trek Calypso. That I'm really wondering if that pays off finally, because that was set in the future where there was a lot of uncertain circumstances in terms of how the galaxy was operating. And I'm hoping that feeds into maybe where we're going with season 3.
Yeah. Do you think that we'll see any type of crossover between Picard and Discovery?
Nah.
I don't think so, no.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I don't know how they would do it, but I'm just, when was the last time we had this much Trek out there?
That never happened before.
I'd say mid-90s when TNG and Deep Space Nine were running head-to-head, or Deep Space Nine and Voyager.
Probably
but those
had
were
the movies.
Pretty brief, yeah.
Yeah, it scares me just a little bit because I remember back then it got saturated, and I think that's when we lost viewership. So what do you think about saturation in this aspect?
But here's the thing, that if you think back, the TNG era was very cohesive. So even though Deep Space Nine, Voyager, TNG had different things going, stuff happening on the ship versus stuff happening on the station, etc. Talking about being stranded versus fighting a war, etc. Nevertheless, they were part of this one whole. They're sort of made out of the same stuff. Here we have how many productions in active or pre-productions? 7, 8, and they all quite different, because let's face it, Strange New Worlds is not the same thing as Lower Decks, is not the same thing as what Section 31 is predicted to be, and certainly not the same as Picard. So it's a buffet of all the different angles on Star Trek, which I think why it probably causes consternation and I don't know, from some of the louder minority that always has something negative to say about whatever new things that's being offered. But I think it's incredible. Nobody says we have to watch every single thing that's coming out. You know, somebody's going to be maybe a little bit more into what's happening with development of Picard character rather than you know, enjoying the wacky humor of Lower Decks, or most certainly, you know, the Nickelodeon show. That's going to be literally kids themed. So I don't see why necessarily, you know, adult fans might be watching, although completists might go for everything and just try to watch every single episode.
Let me tell you a story about my first year in Vegas. So I saw every single Star Trek I could see before I went to Vegas so I could catch up. And then I met Cam and Tyler. And the first thing they said, did you watch the animated series? I said, no. They're like, well, you don't have the award yet. You can't call yourself a fan. So then I had to sit through the animated series. And the next year we went back, I finally got my payoff. Thank you very much. So I will be watching all the cartoons.
Yeah, we called that Star Trek supremacy. That was my term.
No, you know what? I kind of look at it, maybe it's a bit of a, because I know several people who are completists, and they go about it very differently. Some people are very serious about it. Others kind of just really enjoy it. As long as it doesn't become a chore, I'm going to be watching whatever. But you know, I am not. Somebody asked me if I want to finish literally every single thing that's out there. Once it becomes, oh, I have to do this, I have to sit down and force myself to. No, that, you know, Star Trek is a very positive thing in my life, and I don't want it to be. So yeah, I have to admit, I have never seen a single episode of the animated series. Perhaps I will get to it at some point, but I am not going to. But I am not going to force myself just out of, you know, I don't know, some sort of imagined obligation. So yeah.
So Kim, you're in Vancouver, so I know they did some filming there for was it Discovery that did some filming there?
No, Discovery's done in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Toronto.
Okay. So I just haven't heard, like, with everything that's going on, like, is anybody filming right now? Like, is this all stuff that's in the can already that they're just letting out little by little?
Yeah, Discovery was entirely shot. It was post-production that I think they got a little hung up with the COVID.
There was a lot of stuff with the music. Jeff Russo mentioned that it was taking a long time to finish everything musically, and I think that was actually the major part of post-production that was holding up the release.
Right. And so there are, like, in terms of productions in Vancouver, they are slowly starting up. But I mean, this is really applicable when it comes, say, to Strange New Worlds, the Anson Mount show. I don't know when that one will start rolling with production. If they indeed do shoot it in Toronto, like they did Discovery, they may relocate it to LA. Who knows?
Yeah, it's that whole industry is kind of turned upside down right now. And so our friend Jay, right, he's kind of like dead stopped with work, right, because nobody's really working right now. So it's piecemeal, and I just don't know when we're going to see that full effect back. But I mean, I work in technology, and I've never seen this before in my career, where we have embraced the technology out of survival more than because we wanted to. So, like, you're getting your Zooms and you're getting your video cams and you're doing your video chats because you have to, and that's the only way you can connect right now. You know, it's interesting. So I'm wondering what that does for the industry. Like, does everybody just like record with a green screen in the background and somebody puts it together? I don't know.
Well, you know what? Like, we were talking about the animated series, and honestly, this might be a very good time to get Star Trek animation rolling, because they can do that stuff more in isolation than live action work.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. So what else so Picard, when is that starting back up? Because they have a launch date, right? Or not yet?
It was due to start filming around summertime. Obviously, COVID happened.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the interesting thing will be more towards next year, because there's going to be such a delay in filming these shows. As Cam said, that we're lucky that we have these different animations on the way, because they can sort of prop up the franchise. But come 2021, no one would have filmed anything in 2020. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there'll be any live action content in 2021.
So what are you guys
doing? End of the year.
So what are you guys doing to keep entertained right now? So like I've rewatching every series in the world that I ever liked just because nothing new is out there. I didn't know how much I counted on new stuff to keep me entertained, but what are your go-tos right now?
I mean, Marina. I've been watching the animated series Marina.
Yeah. I can barely watch regular TV. You want me to do more track now? No, actually, well, I already actually, I've mentioned to our listeners many times that, you know, my days are actually quite packed between working from home and then doing as much stuff online as I can reasonably fit in, you know, on top of doing everything else. That's what's keeping me occupied. I don't think I've watched regular TV in months because there's just so much content available online. And I'm not talking just Star Trek, you know, with all the virtual events that we've had and everything. It's just generally, I found a whole lot of, you know, various educational institutions and museums and everything producing quite a lot of virtual content that is freely available. So yeah, I'm quite occupied, as a matter of fact. I mean, I had 2 events planned for tonight as we're recording this, and one unfortunately got postponed, but I still have another one that actually happens to feature Gates McFadden. So there you go. So online stuff is currently my jam, and of all sorts.
Yeah. So Cam and Scott, have you guys done any online stuff? Like everybody who listens to this knows that I'm not a fan because it just makes you depressed. But
you gotta keep positive.
But I did sign up for my first GalaxyCon event, so we'll see how that goes. Cam, are you doing any of the online stuff?
I just checked little bits of the footage from the at-home Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. Which, unfortunately, that event didn't seem to fare too well in terms of viewers. But I watched little bits of the Discovery Live read, and just honestly, I find live panels don't tend to grab me very much. There's something about the energy of being in the room at STLV versus just watching on my computer monitor. It just doesn't really grab me as much. So, you know, it's kind of like, you remember the moment at STLV a couple years ago where Patrick Stewart came out by surprise on stage.
Funny you should mention it because it literally was like the day before yesterday, as we're recording this, was exactly the 2-year anniversary of this. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And you remember the electricity in that room, right? Yeah. Like, it was unbelievable. One of my all-time great con experiences. And I remember going home and being like, I got to watch some video of that moment. And I watched the video and I was like, this does not compete at all to what it was like in that room in that moment. And that's kind of the way I feel with a lot of the virtual events, which is unfortunate because obviously these companies want to keep the experience going. And as you said, you know, a lot of fans who can't go to cons do get that experience. But I find for me, it's a big gap for me in terms of the enjoyment factor.
Yeah, it really is the people. So I'm a big Saturday Night Live fan. And, you know, they had to do the Saturday Night Live at home for a couple of 3 or 4 weeks, right? And you could just tell, like, even the talent was like, I'm not sure if this joke is hitting or not because there's no people to feed off of to say whether it's good or bad. And so, you know, that's kind of how I feel about, you know, when I popped into some of these things, I'm like, he could just be talking to a wall and no one's listening. And Marina and I have done a couple of online things, but it's been a Zoom type thing. So at least we can see people's reactions and cue off of that. It's more the folks who are recording, but they don't have that feedback, constant feedback coming back in. And I think that, like Cam, you said, sells like me sitting in a stage and watching that stuff happen because it's not only what they're saying, like we're goofy, right? So we're like, oh, look at that guy or look at that girl, well, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, not every panel is a gem. There are some that are like, you know, maybe you walk away and you're kind of have like there's a funny, awkward moment that you and your friends kind of talk about later, or there's some sort of moment of spontaneity in that panel that gives you something to kind of talk about. A lot of that's removed, I find, when you watch it at home.
Yeah, and I remember when Cam and Tyler did one of the panels at Vegas. I think it was not the one where you went against Patrick Stewart or whoever it was, or Jason Isaacs, but
don't remind me.
But I remember you were talking about those other characters, and like you were talking about characters and not the regulars, but just people who came in and how they added to the show, and in the background we've had discussions about like that. And some guy came up and said at the end, he said, "You missed the important one, the Traveler." And the face on you and Tyler, he brought that up. I'm like, oh my God.
We lit up like Christmas trees because the Traveler is definitely a bit of an ongoing joke on Subspace Transmissions. Yeah.
That, but nobody mentioned Barile, and I think that's, you have to think about that.
That's true. That's true. Next time. Next time.
So Scott, so like you're in the UK, so is it any different there in terms of like the energy and what's going on? Or, I mean, you get together with us once a week. I don't join often enough, but I mean, how is it? I know, don't yell at me. So how is it for you? Is it pretty much the same as, well, hopefully not, because the US isn't doing too well right now, but how is it just trying to stay entertained and keep Star Trek on the mind with all this going on?
Well, I mean, we haven't addressed this yet, but technically Lower Decks is not coming out tomorrow for me.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing because of the pandemic. The entire release schedule got screwed up. At least that's what the recently released interview with Mike McMahon indicated. Mm-hmm. So it's a unfortunate, sad thing. We kind of posted a sort of a request not to post spoilers in the unofficial STLV group after the premiere, and then there's just no way, I suppose, for the international fans to kind of avoid it, because we still don't know when you guys actually going to be able to see it.
Well, I remember when the Orville came out, and it wasn't in the UK, and I remember like putting my phone on. I had this contraption in my room, put my phone to watch the TV and recorded it, and I said, "Scott, do you want to?" And then like after the first episode, he says, "Yeah, don't do that again." But maybe there's some FaceTime, something we can do, because it is sad, right? Because then I'm pretty sure you guys get killed by the spoilers more than we do, because like you don't even get to see it right at the same time.
Well, I mean, the other problem we have at the moment is, going back to the sort of online convention scene, is if it was to say SCLV, which is meant to be happening as we speak, I would be in Las Vegas, so I would be in that time zone. Whereas it's, as we're recording, it's 11 o'clock at night. This sort of time of the day is where most of these online cons have started. So unless you're staying up till 2 a.m. to watch a video of I don't know, someone talk about an episode, it's going to ruin your whole next day. So a lot of us in the UK, and I imagine Europe and sort of that way, are not particularly well connected to it, because we just don't have the ability to stay up and watch it, or a lot of us won't.
Is there any production of online type of con stuff in the UK, or is it basically US based?
I think one guy who has something to do with Destination Star Trek runs a quiz. I think Marina's done something with that.
Yeah, Dan. He does a great job.
But that's about it. Nothing to the realms of like GalaxyCon or what Seventh Rule podcast did, anything like that. Nothing like that at all, because all the stars live in Los Angeles, so the West Coast. So they're not up when we're up.
Yeah. Yep. And who were we talking to, Marina? We were talking about the online stuff. Oh, it was Chase Masterson, right? And so, and Dan Deavy we talked to, and the one thing that kills me is like, they're all in their living rooms, right? Because it's very genuine, but like they haven't invested in a microphone or anything. So like my favorite was the Knob Visitor. She's like screaming at her computer because I think somebody told her they couldn't hear her, and I was like, you guys work with those boom mics all the time. You should know that you need sound. But it's just been fun to see folks. My favorite thing is just to see the folks that I enjoyed, because they're in the future and they're in a starship, struggling to use a microphone on their computer. I mean, it's kind of surreal, but it's hilarious.
That's why it's called acting.
So let's talk about, so we get through 23 weeks, which gets us to the end of the year. Marina, because you keep track. So I think we just need to look into anything new coming out probably next year, right? Like the cruise postponed to 2022. Vegas is the only thing scheduled for December, and that's iffy even right now. And
we still have both DSTs and STLV as one of the few events still actively listed in they constantly changing and being the list that's being postponed all the time, list of convention events. But I am sure we're going to be seeing a whole lot of further proliferation of the virtual events. I mean, we already have several coming up that something to be on the lookout for. There's one that Reed Pop that hosts a lot of very large conventions, such as New York Comic Con, for instance. It's called Metaverse, and it's coming up literally, let's see, we're recording, it's August 5th, so it's coming in a matter of 8 days, so a week. And it's same basic content. The only thing is that they do, well, at least from Star Trek side, they will have Michelle Hurd, they will have Issa Briones, they will have Eben Evagor. So they're fairly new to the convention circuit. We haven't really had much chance to see them in events physically yet. I mean, there were a couple of conventions early in the year that they attended, but Michelle Hurd did the VTC from the virtual TrekCon that Brian did. So I think that's going to be interesting. I think I'm going to try and tune in and check out how they're going to do it. And I'm kind of guessing that this metaverse, I mean, it's a mix. Besides Trek, they will have other genres, other series, other franchises, I should say. I'm assuming that this is a precursor to the virtual version of New York Comic Con, because that's let's face it, this is New York Comic Con traditionally early October. That's coming up sooner than you feel, you think. And obviously it's not happening physically. There's just no way. So, so what's going to happen next year? Very hard to say. I think things are going to just keep moving and moving until we finally hit the spot as a society when things will start to get better. Until then, it's a waiting game. And thank goodness that we have virtual events. I mean, it's so much better than nothing.
So Marina, did you go to the Unbelievable thing?
Yes.
Okay. So tell us about that. So you guys know Unbelievable's that 40 Star Trek.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. So somehow I don't know how, but Ian Spelling reached out to Marina, and then and then got us in touch with Chase Masterson.
We had a discussion about it. Yeah, we had a discussion about it, and it came up that the premiere is coming, and it's sort of like a very first hybrid event where it was supposed to be an actual movie premiere, which quotation marks, because it was just streamed live. It was premiered live via live stream. And then it had a follow-up segment that had, sort of interviews, and fans had the chance to, same deal, purchase a ticket for a one-on-one interaction online with one of the stars.
So how did that
It was an interesting experience in the sense that I have heard about this for the longest time. This is an independent production, so it took a while and a lot of effort to produce it and film it. And then finally, right now, they do have the distributor, so it's actually happening.
It's going to be on Prime, right? Is that
that's right. Yeah, that's the next thing. And but just watching it was kind of, well, first of all, hilarious, because you have it's a pure parody. It's funny. It has the
lead is a puppet.
Humor.
That's all I have to say. The lead is a puppet.
Do not spoil it for others who want to check it out. But basically, I might recommend actually having a little bit of something strong before starting to watch it, because that was certainly
some Romulan ale.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But the creators themselves, when they introduced the film, they said, leave the brain at the door. Do not come with any kind of preconceptions. Keep your mind as open as possible, because it's really, I mean, there are certain moments where I'm like, you know what? Yes, this was hilarious. This was ridiculous. This was just weird. And then you get like the little nuggets of complete genius hilarity when I laughed out loud. So it kind of sprinkled. It's not the entire thing is like that, but it was an interesting experience. I'm glad it finally saw the light of day. It's a little bit interesting to watch it now, because it was filmed before 2015, I believe. So you actually get some of the cast. If you look at the names, some of the folks actually passed away since then, like Celeste Yarnall, for instance. So that's a little bit kind of a little bit of bittersweet, like you see her on there she is, and she's been gone for several years now. So I'm glad that it's out. You will not probably put it in the same shelf as any of the documentaries that we've had, because this is most certainly a very unique product.
So
check
it's
it
not
out
a Galaxy Quest, Marina?
No, it's wackier. It's far wackier than that.
Well, it does have Snoop Dogg, so when I saw that, I went, "Oh boy!"
Yeah, like
so
I said, it's very unusual.
So, Cam, are you gonna check it out? Unbelievable, because it's gonna be out there. And what did Ian say, Marina? Like in a couple days on Prime.
Let me actually double check that. Yeah.
Cam, you don't look like you're going to see it.
I'll let her look it up.
No, it's coming. Amazon, video on demand Friday, August 7th. That's when it's coming.
He's so busy with Spy Hard at the moment. He hasn't got time to watch other films.
It's true. I don't have Amazon Prime at the moment. Will I watch it? I mean, I've definitely been very aware of this project for several years now, like a long time. I feel like most of my Star Trek fandom life, I have been aware of Unbelievable. I would never rule out watching it.
Well, I could totally stream it for us on Saturday because I have.
Sure.
I could do that as
I feel like it's the sort of thing, like if we had our Vegas group assembled, we'd get together and watch it and probably have a good time. But like sitting alone in my sad apartment right now, like, do I want to like sit and watch Unbelievable by myself? It's probably not high on my list of priorities.
Well, Captain Scott, think about it. We can stream it on our Saturday get together and have drinks and laugh over it. I think.
I definitely recommend drinks because it would help. It would help. Yeah.
No, Scott, you're looking forward to it, aren't you, Scott?
Hey, if I get to watch it with you guys, I'm on board. But if I have to watch it in my front room with Hannah sitting next to me, judging me the entire time it's on, I'm not going to be doing that, I don't think.
I mean, Scott is too busy watching the animated series right now.
Yeah. Taking meticulous notes.
On repeat.
Yeah.
As far as other stuff, like I said, I do expect that things will pick up in terms of online content. I'm curious to see if we will see something new, like Virtual TrekCon that's a brand new event that never happened before. In-house con is now a thing, even though again that's a brand new event that launched. I think when was the first panels that we had? Probably June. So GalaxyCon just keeps churning stuff out. I mean, it's not just Trek. They have quite a variety across different franchises. They just literally announced they will have Will Wheaton the second half of the August, I think. But what I'm basically getting at is that considering how much actual brand new Trek we're having, there's bound to be more online virtual events, whether it's going to be organized specifically by CBS or it's going to be picked up by, again, we still have New York Comic Con out there and it's bound to be a large virtual thing. So we will see more stuff online, that's for sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Kim. Sorry.
Does the Star Trek franchise have anything to offer to upcoming cons, do you think, in terms of announcements? With so many of the productions on hold, is there much left for them to kind of make splashy announcements about?
I don't know, because I think that's the same of anybody right now. So
yeah.
And you can tell, so mainstream. So if you go to Redbox, it hasn't had anything new in forever. The movies aren't even open yet. Again, if I go to my on demand, it's the same on demand that was there 4 months ago. I mean, I feel very disconnected, and I feel like we're not progressing with this whole thing. And I think the virtual conventions are trying to give us that bit of content so that next year we can go, oh, that's what happened that month. We usually talk about what happened last year by the movies that came out, by the music that came out. This year, it's going to be all about what virtual thing happened, because that's the only thing new that we have to go on. So
I feel like all they can really offer at this point, that's to the best of my thoughts right now, my memory, is character designs for Star Trek Prodigy, maybe a Strange New Worlds logo, but there's not a lot left, really.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they will, who knows? We only really know 3 characters from Strange New Worlds. If they're going to start casting, that could be probably it.
That's good, yeah.
There could be, we might finally hear something about Section 31, because for now, all we know is just that it's probably gonna.
It's gonna be Ash Tyler,
happen,
Section 31.
Is gonna know. So Michelle Yeoh, but what else do we know about it? Nothing. So that's certainly something that may make a splash, especially once, I don't know, anything comes up. Because right now,
I'm curious to see what we see next year with Picard, because I liked the first season. I won't say I loved the first season, but I liked it. But they went in a direction that I just didn't think I'd see with Picard specifically. So, this whole new, not in case no one's seen it, the new thing that happened, we'll call it. I just don't know how that's gonna go, and it's. When you read online some of the stuff, it's like they're talking about the ethical, way of, is he really him and all that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what we do with him moving forward. But I am I'm just curious to see how we, 5 years from now, how we say what happened in 2020 when we don't have anything to really account it to except for the pandemic. So it'll be interesting. So,
I think CBS are missing a bit of a trick at the moment, to be honest with you. Apart from obviously putting out the shows, and they're giving us 23 weeks of Trek, which, I mean, not for the international fans, but let's stick to North America for a second. That's a lot of new content. Obviously, that will cease in 2021, more or less. Mm-hmm. But there's all sorts of things they could be doing on the side, and I'll throw a shout out to Cam and Tyler on Subspace Transmissions. They spoke about different episodes that they can have table reads for. There's such a rich opportunity out there to have the casts come together on Zoom and do table reads from different shows. I mean, we've got the Voyager anniversary this year. We've not heard a peep about that. Why can't we get the cast together to do a table read of a great episode, or get some writers to write a new one? And you can get people to pay for it, and that's new content with minimal effort, really.
That's a good idea. You can market that idea, Scott.
CBS.
So, guys, tell us more about what's coming up with Spy Hards. Like, what's your first? You've done an episode? I got to admit, I haven't even looked at it yet. But
thanks, Jesse.
That is the worst intro I've ever seen.
What is this insignificant thing you're doing?
I followed the Twitter. It said you did something. So what's coming up?
Well, depending on when this episode drops, our first episode drops on, it would be Friday the 7th. And then every Tuesday from then on in, we'll be having regular episodes, different movie every week. Our first movie, this is a spoiler, I suppose. So the first time heard on your podcast. Congratulations. Our first movie is the 1995 film Goldeneye.
Oh, nice.
Which I'm a big fan of. And I mean, we do a little special thing on the podcast, basically, where we try to figure out a list, basically. But I'll hand over to Cam to explain the list.
Yeah, so basically, I don't know, I think everyone's probably seen the first Mission Impossible where they have the knock list, which is the list of basically MI people undercover that the villains get their hands on. And so we have our own knock list. And for us, it's the need to see official classics. So basically, Scott and I are going to break down spy movies of all different eras. We're going to, we're not just doing, the recent stuff. We're going to go back to the old days and look really at the evolution of spy movies and bounce all over between franchises and standalone movies. But basically, the big question mark over every episode will be, does this movie belong in the knock list? Is it a must-see classic of the spy genre, or is it not? And you can look at movies that are a lot of fun that we all enjoy, but maybe they don't line up with what belongs in a knock list. So that'll be kind of the ongoing conversation there.
That'll be interesting. All right, well, I will keep my eyes open for that, and we'll definitely put a link out to it for this podcast. So, Marina, what else do we have to talk about? We're, I'm the timekeeper, so I always say, here we go.
We actually covered pretty much everything we wanted to talk about because, as we kind of pointed out, so we have a lot of Trek coming on. I'd be on the lookout what's going to be offered online because something's going to come along. I mean, Lower Decks, I wish I were a part of it, but there was actually an online Red premiere that some of the folks I'm friends with got to attend yesterday. So things are happening virtually, whether we like it, enjoy it, whatever we think about it, and seeing that new content is coming, that virtual stuff will be the basis of the news coming out in the next half a year for sure. Otherwise, yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything. I mean, again, no conventions, so we're very limited with the content ourselves.
Please call us and we'll talk about anything you want to talk about on this podcast.
No, but yeah, let's see what happens. Let's see what else comes along. Until then, thank goodness we have internet. So where can people find you online? Let's start with Scott. Sorry.
Sure. I mean, for myself, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Tiberius Hardy, Hardy. And if you want to connect with us about the podcast, you can find us on all social media at Spyhards. That's SPYHARDS. And I'm ready to argue about any film with you.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Cam, where can people find you online?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Cam Vias in Voyager Anniversary Smith. Oh. And yeah, of course, Spyhards, but you can also as well look up Subspace Transmissions wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, and let's remember, everybody, he's the third part of our Surely podcast because he does all of our editing. So thank you, Cam, again.
No problem.
And me, so I'll go, Marina, and then we'll let you close with the housekeeping. I am just at Jesse Okendo. I'm at Outrageous Okendo, which we'll put on the podcast, OUTJESOKENDO. Kind of fell into that longest Twitter name I've ever seen, but because of my Vegas friends. So
You're welcome.
Other than that, admin of the unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas group, and of course here on Shore Leave. Marina?
Yes, you can find me on Facebook under my full name, or on Twitter and Instagram at Dracorex, DRAKKOREX. Jess, you already mentioned the unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas group. And of course, you can find Shore Leave on Facebook and at Shoreleaf on Twitter. And of course, as our listeners know, Shoreleaf is the part of the Triquetra Transmissions Network. If you enjoy what we do here on Shoreleaf or on any of our sister shows on Triquetra Transmissions, consider joining our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/The Triquetra Transmissions, or you can visit our webpage, which is thetriquetratransmissions.com, and click on the Patreon link there. Becoming patron will get you unedited access to our little screw-ups, the unedited and the early release episodes with occasional bonus material. And we, as always, very thankful to all our patrons and listeners for your support. Thank you.
Thanks, Marina. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Just live long and prosper.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
All right. Keep trekking.
All right.